G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. So you think you're a keen Warbles watcher? Try this quick quiz. What's missing from this scene? If you can remember what this area used to look like. Can you recall? I'll tell you. What's not there is the remains of 33 repetitions of the stupid idea. The stupid idea was put in my brain by my wife, who probably had an excuse because she was conceived and bred and born in Burton-on-Trent in England, and she got the idea off an English television gardening show or some stupid magazine equivalent thereof. And the theory was you could put a tyre on the ground and fill it with dirt, and then you could plant potatoes in the dirt in the tyre, and then when the plants come up higher than another tyre, you could put another tyre on that and fill more dirt in, and the potato was supposed to just keep growing up as the tyres stacked up. And when you got your pile of tyres up about chest high, then the potatoes would poke leaves out the top of that, turn all the sunlight into stored starch. And when you wanted to harvest your potatoes, all you did was come along and just kick the pile of tyres over, and they fell over, and all of the potatoes fell out of the dirt, and it was, like potatoes and dirt mixed like a bloody fruit cake all the way down. That was the theory. In fact, you could throw in leaf clippings and lawn clippings, and it'd all compost in there while the potatoes turned it into beautiful dirt. What a fantasy. The first time I tried it up here with the composting idea, it sat there and it turned into a leaf litter bushfire fuel bomb wrapped up in vulcanised rubber. Vulcanised synthetic rubber. So I rethought that whole idea, and I decided maybe you could just use them as plant pots, impromptu plant pots. So I started with the idea of cutting one side wall out for the bottom one, and then cutting both side walls out for subsequent ones and getting 2 or 3 tyres high full of dirt. And what happened, sad to say, is that none of these trees are stupid. As soon as their root network detected the water coming out the bottom of the tyre piles, as I was watering the garden every day, the faster and the harder these trees competed to push root feeders up underneath the tyre piles. And you'd get your vegetables started and they'd grow up for about a foot, and then they'd suddenly fail to thrive, and then they'd bloody go yellow and die, no matter what you did to them. And what was going on was they were being strangled from below because the trees have got more solar panels, they're better established, and they can outcompete anything I tried to plant. Difference between having a hundreds of year lifetime and being alive for one summer season. So that's how I came to be first trying to grow plants in corrugated iron boxes, and then I evolved to storage containers with the lid on the ground underneath it, so that when the water comes off, it flows out the bottom holes, maybe 2 or 3 centimetres above the base of the storage container. It goes onto the lid, and then it drips off the edge of the lid, and there's no pathway for a tree root to make its way up and over the exposed bare plastic and come in the bottom. So yeah, storage containers sitting on their lids, they work. Tyres, growing things, tyres, composting, leaf litter, yeah, total bullshit. Unless you've got so much water available that you can keep the entire pile of dirt wet. And even then you got the problem that it's black, so it absorbs heat from the sun, so it dries out even faster. Which brings me to my problem, which was that I had 33 tyres cut up into parts, sitting in a heap between my machinery shed and my daughter's tent on the very edge of the wet dome from that sprinkler tower. It would have been well covered by the next sprinkler tower, which is going to go over there, basically where the wooden tripod is between the shipping container and the tent. There's going to be another 5 metre tower with a 25mm sprinkler on it. That's what the plumbing's for. Um, but why the hell do I want to spend $11,000 upgrading me already $12,000 fire plan in order to better protect a pile of bloody stupid idea tyres that I chopped up before I woke up to myself? That's a stupid idea. Yeah, okay. So there we run into the next dimension of the problem. About the same time I realised that you can't grow anything in tyres in this part of Australia, that's when I became aware of the fact that they were charging $5 to leave your old tyre at the dump. Sorry, at the tyre service. This is how I come to have so many tyres. Not only did I bring tyres home from the dump, every time I got new tyres on my car, I'd bring them home in the hope of playing with them. Didn't work. So I just hung on to them because it was going to be $5 to take them to the tyre service. And then I discovered yesterday when I got to the town dump, because I can't take them to the deep water dump because the rural dumps don't do tyres. You get to the town dump and we run into a couple of problems. The first one is that they only accept FPOS, and I don't do FPOS, so I huffed and puffed at the bloke at the dump, and he sent me up to council office. Going back from the dump to council after having been thwarted in my attempt to pay to drop off the tyres and being told that it's going to be $9.50 for each tyre, and the one that's got a rim in it, that'll be twice that price, but we'll let you throw away the 2 wheelbarrow wheels with rims for nothing. I thought they were going to charge me motorcycle tyre prices for the wheelbarrow ones. So I get to drive past those trees that have been ring barked again on my way to the council office. And when I got to the council office, I was in a bit of a huffy puffy mood. You know, I didn't quite have steam coming out my ears, but the painted secretary is somebody I've known for years, and we generally get a giggle when we talk in the supermarket. And I was explaining effusively to her how irritating it was that I just kept running into roadblocks and roadblocks and roadblocks. And not only is it really expensive, but they won't take cash. And I worked myself up to the fever pitch of explaining that cash is legal tender. Australian Federal Reserve currency is legal tender for all debts, private and public, within Australia and its territories. And it's not actually lawful to refuse cash. And I said, and basically, if they don't come up with some way of resolving this situation, you're likely to have me whip out my YouTube camera and make an absolutely, totally red hot cranky movie as I unload the tyres on your front lawn for you to do whatever you want with them. If you don't want me to pay you to take them to the dump, you want me to take them to the dump. I'm not going to have them at my place constituting a fire hazard. I'm not going to put water from the new tank through the new plumbing system onto old stupid tyres. It's not going to happen, mate. At about that point, the couple of levels up of office managers and staff come funneling out to ask if I was abusing their staff, to which me and the painted secretary both laughed and explained, no. This is just Warbles explaining what he feels like expressing. It doesn't mean that he's going to start to be abusive or nasty or unfriendly or anything. It's just, communication. And then we had the discussion about legal tender all over again, and I explained that it was a sign of a collapsing, delaminating civilization if they didn't maintain any on-hand reserves of tradable currency. You looked at me like I was an idiot, so I explained Pine Gap being where it is and the effect of an electromagnetic pulse if anybody decides they want America to be blind from Cape Town to Vladivostok all over the Asian continent, the Indian subcontinent, all over the Middle East, South Africa. Everything the Americans see in SyncPack in Honolulu comes off a satellite in a geostationary orbit over Australia, and it's all downloaded and uploaded and controlled via Pine Gap. So if you really want to blind Uncle Spam, you drop an atom bomb on Pine Gap. Bingo, Uncle Spam can't see shit over that whole area. And when you drop an atom bomb on Pine Gap, the EMP kills the computers, and when the EMP kills the computers, all your digital money evaporates, among other problems, like your grid falls down, and then you can't tell the service station's computer to fill the police car. or the ambulance or the fire truck or the council truck, and you've only got 72 hours of fuel in the backup stores at the generator at the hospital. By which stage the office council managers started raising their eyebrows a bit, especially when I reminded them that in 1929, because of something financial going wrong in New York, in 1930 in Glen Innes, they shut the banks. And they shut every bank in Australia and they didn't open them again until 1933. Right? For 3 years, you had to trade on what cash money you happened to have on you on the day they shut the bank and denied you access to your own bank account. So you couldn't put any money in, you couldn't pull any money out. That caused a few eyebrows to raise and pensive frowns, as I explained again, that not only is it not legal for you to refuse Australian currency as the legal tender for a lawful debt, but by trying to argue me into changing my mind, you are attempting to convince me that participation in the downfall of civilization is a clever idea. And I don't think it is. So they worked it out and they accepted me money, and happily 20 tyres comprising 15 full tyres and 10 half tyres, because you have to do the calculation. I've modified the calculation to be more accurate. A sidewall is a quarter of a tyre. A tread with no sidewalls is a half a tyre. A tread ring with one sidewall is 3/4 of a tyre. So what we're looking at here in fractional parts is 13 tyres at $9.50 each. Whereas yesterday I paid $199.50 to dump 20 tyres, with some of them in parts thereof, fractionals. Today I'm going to go in there and I'm going to have to pay $123.50 to get rid of the rest of it. This is the price of motoring down the track. I'm fully aware that when you go to the tyre service, they'll accept your tyre for $5. What this means is they are sponsoring your tyre disposal to the tune of $4.50, because they're going to make more than that selling you the new one. Marketing's ism, but that's the cost of dumping a tyre in Glen Innes. $9.50 for a car tyre, $19 if it's a car tyre with the rim on. And no, I'm not drinking vodka in the middle of the day, it's coconut milk. Don't know why, but it seems to agree with you at the moment. So, there you go. On the way from offloading me $200, $199.50 worth of dump tyres, that was when I made the video about the ringbark trees. And considering what a cranky pants stressful morning I'd had, what a bloody rigmarole to get my name spelt wrong while dumping 2/3 of my bushfire fuel burden. Yeah, I thought I did pretty well in making a video explaining my concerns at the ring barking of the trees in Quota Park, and showing the video to the adult family member of the kids who didn't know they were gum trees when they were going out there playing with an axe, thinking they were getting in touch with nature. Yeah, I think that went fairly well, more or less. Also, you know, like I didn't make anything get any worse. A young lady about my daughter's age, I've talked to at least twice for 15 minutes or so in various social occasions, so she knew who I was, you know, so she didn't have as much coming up to speed, for example, as the council's office managers. She was more in the situation of the painted secretary at council, who knew I was an oddball and knew I was harmless despite the soundtrack and the appearance. So yeah, I made that video, and then I went straight from there up to the main street, went and visited my son, who's pretty well plugged in, explained how pissed off I was at the idea that council requires FPOS at the dump. And while I was at my son's, whether from him or from somebody else, I'm not going to say, but I got the backstory. They require FPOS because 2 different employees have had to be fired because they were tickling the till at the weighbridge. Because not only is the opportunity there to grab the cash. There's also the opportunity to put somebody through backwards and forwards without writing them a receipt, in which case the cash never sees the cash box. So that's their response. Instead of putting somebody else on, so that you got two people, each one to see the other one steals none, like nuns going shopping in the 1960s and 70s, always went in pairs, each nun to make sure the other nun got none. Or even just put a camera over the top of the till so everybody knows they're going to get caught if they steal. But no. Their response, bean counter response, oh, we'll stop letting them have any cash up there. We can't trust anybody. Let's be suspicious and nasty and let's irritate the shit out of the ratepayers who are paying our wages. And it was a bit of a rigmarole. But anyway, I sorted out, negotiated a particular track by which I can take these tyres to the dump, and it should go fairly smoothly. But that business of the FPOS, and the fact that the people at council didn't have the honesty to say to me, oh, well, this is why we don't have FPOS up there, is because we don't trust our staff. We think they're all a mob of bloody thieves, We don't trust them with money. They didn't have the balls to say that to me, to my face. And it only took half an hour of inquiring in the main street to get the backstory, because old local effect, gossip network. When I was a kid, I couldn't do anything wrong at school without my parents knowing about it before I got home. You can't get away with shit in little country towns, so you have to be a nice person or get used to living with a reputation for being an irresponsible arsehole for whatever reason, or pack up and piss off and go somewhere else and try not to blot your copybook there. Such is life, Ned Kelly. Such is life. $9.50 to dump a tyre at the dump. There was one other option, one that I rejected. Several years ago, after I'd realised that I had a couple of trailer loads of tyres I wanted to get rid of, I noticed that the road construction companies were in the habit of putting great big piles of blue metal on the dumps beside the road prior to commencing work. And to keep rain from getting into their construction gravel, they'd cover it with black plastic. And to stop the black plastic from blowing away in the wind, they'd cover the paperweight, the black plastic, with old tyres. And probably for 5 years I saw this going on. Various roads, various dumps, various times. And each time I fantasised about going straight home and loading up my trailer with tyres and then waiting for about 1 o'clock in the morning and go out there and with my head torch on red, unload the bloody tyres all over their plastic on the top of their gravel pile, and then maybe come home and do it again the next night. And that would have saved me $323.50, but each time it was after the invention of trail cameras. And I knew the stories getting round about how all the people who used to think it was fair game to go out and pinch things off roadside construction equipment left on the weekend, they were all getting busted because there were trail cams surrounding the parked equipment. And I was just barely bright enough to reason that if they got night vision trail cams around their trucks and tractors, then to stop arseholes from going and pinching the bloody gravel in the middle of the night, just shovel it all up and take it home because it's cheaper to do that than buy it from the quarry. They've probably got trail cams around the gravel pile too, eh? How much shit are you going to get in when the trail cam picks up your number plate at 3 o'clock in the morning, unloading a whole lot of tyres? What's the fine for littering? At per each item. Turns out to be really cheap to go to the council and pay them the money and get the bit of paper that says you can go to the dump, drop the tyres at the dump, doesn't it? Yeah, do the right thing, as they say, perhaps, in the classics. And tell the bloody truth too. Because if you tell the truth, you don't get the hippie, fool on the hill, loudmouth, greeny, tree-hugging, mad scientist so pissed off he makes a video on YouTube explaining why council makes you have FPOS at the dumps, because they don't trust their staff. They think their staff are a mob of fucking thieves. I suppose that means they can't be Christians, eh? Because Jesus said, judge not thy fellow human. I suppose it means they can't be Egyptian either, because Jesus was plagiarising the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where it goes on to say, lest thine own heart, which was their term for soul, lest thine own heart slash soul be weighed in the balance against the feather of truth and found to be wanting. Judge not thy fellow human. But they can't have cash at the dump because their employees are a bunch of fucking thieves. You ask the management. Just ask them. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.